Hello there, friends. Welcome to episode 69 of That One Gaming Podcast. My name is Colin, but I'm otherwise known as Delicious Morsels, and here with me today is Lucas, aka Carnevil9. How is Lucas today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Very nice. And we've also got Neal here, better known as VMK89. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty swell.
Also, very nice. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, or one of the many other podcasting platforms out there where the three of us get together every other week to talk about a variety of topics in the world of gaming. And in this episode, we are going to be discussing some of the video game characters that we think are the nicest around. But before we get into that, we like to talk about the games that we've been playing since the last episode. So, Lucas, what have you been playing?
Well, see, last week, Friday, I played through Super Mario 64. Thought it was just going to be a regular stream, but a challenger approached. And by that, I mean, Neal was like, hey, you should race. And, well, it was an interesting race because Neal was playing Sonic and 3 and Knuckles.
Because, I mean, if I had raced playing Super Mario 64, it would be no contest.
Yeah. And, well, it was very close, to say the least. Except it also wasn't. So,
because initially you were going for what? A full...
Yeah, originally I was going to do a 70-star run, which is like the minimum number of stars you have to collect in order to reach Bowser in the sky without glitches.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, like Neal had gotten to, Hidden Palace Zone, and I was like,
yeah.
well, and I was at, I think like 28 stars in Bowser in the Fire Sea.
Yeah, that sounded about right. Yeah, you were not even half there.
Yeah.
When I was getting to the very last stages of the game.
Yep.
The thing was, I've only beaten Sonic 3 and Knuckles, their main final boss, like once, and that was on stream on the Discord.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole time I was like, "Oh well, you'll catch up while I'm trying to beat Big Arms," which you probably would have.
Yeah, but I did still have 52 stars to go.
Yeah,
I think the odds were more in your favor.
Yeah, I probably would have gotten it eventually before you got, 58 stars.
Yep. So yeah, I then ended up doing MIPS clips to get through the 30-star door into Bowser and the Fire Sea. Or rather, I did that so that I could get into Dire Docks early. And as it happened to work out, it ended up coming in handy for setting up to, okay, I'm just gonna go mode to the end of the game now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we basically got both, because I was like, okay, well, if you do the shortcut, then I'll go ahead and just my goal will be to get to the final boss, Big Arms.
Yeah,
and it was really close, and you ultimately won on those terms, but only just barely.
Yep.
Surprising close and a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Clearly, I am very rusty at Super Mario 64.
Mm-hmm.
As if I were ever good at it in the first place.
I've never been good at that game.
Yeah. Super Mario 64 speedrunners are incredible to watch and a cruel reminder that I was never good at that game. And then yesterday played some Mario Party Jamboree with Becca and her sister. That was
fun. The game is so good.
It's so good. Except it decided to curb stomped me into oblivion.
Oof.
I got a bonus star out of the 2 games that we played.
That's all?
Yeah.
Nice.
Damn.
I was about like I could have won the one game that I played with my brother and sister-in-law, and then I got the partner, and then the very next turn my brother comes along behind me, steals my partner, and then steals the rest of the game from then on.
Sounds about right.
I was very upset. I thought I was going to win. I won every mini game.
Yeah.
But it wasn't enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a decent win rate for mini games. I just had horrible luck getting to stars.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the first time I've ever actually purchased a Mario Party game. So I'm glad it's a really good one to buy.
Yeah.
I figured it's like it would be fun to have because Mario Party is just a board game that you play on your TV with your Switch. So it's like it'd be fun to have that for family get-togethers and stuff, just to have like a board game to play, essentially.
Yeah.
And then once Brinley's old enough to play it, she can play it too. We gave her a controller and made the mistake of actually having it connected to the Switch.
Hey.
And it was the Joy-Con with the screenshot button. So even though she couldn't control the 4th character because we set that to CPU controlled, she could still take screenshots, and she loved specifically the screenshot button.
So how long did it take to fill your hard drive with screenshots?
Not very long.
Nice. Yeah. Mavis is like super focused on Mario Party when we're playing it.
Yeah, it'll be fun when they can play with us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I've been up to. Been kind of light on games because I've been like tinkering with ancient iBooks and MacBooks still.
You sure have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on my 4th installation of Leopard in 24 hours.
Nice. Anyway, what has Neal been playing?
Not a ton. Just before this episode, actually, though, I was playing a ROM hack version of Sonic 1 with Cream the Rabbit as my playable character, which definitely has nothing to do with my picks for this episode, so keep listening. It was an interesting hack. It was definitely very much just like importing Cream from the advanced games into Sonic 1, but there were a lot of interesting little bits that were a little bit more difficult. Cheese wasn't quite as reliable, so some of that was a little bit more difficult than it should have been, such as the Spring Guard boss, which Cream or Cheese wouldn't attack unless you were close to him, which I didn't figure out until the second time I played the boss, so it took me a minute to beat that one, whereas it should have been super easy if it was more like the Sonic Advance gameplay style. Also been playing some Minecraft on a regular basis. The server is kind of popping right about now. Got a bunch of people that have returned to the server. One of the people brought along a new player, and she's super into the game. They have already built a crazy long rail line to that faction, so that's excellent. I'm trying to think what else have I been playing. I mean, Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I said that already.
Yep.
That's really about it. Yeah. So I guess I'll do this. Colin, what have you been playing?
Well, I finished Xenosaga Episode 2.
Nice.
And yeah, that's definitely the worst of the Xeno games. I don't think it's a bad game, but I also don't necessarily think it's a good game either. It kind of treads the line between in a lot of ways. Like I mentioned on the last episode, I wasn't really too big a fan of the way the battle system worked because it kind of forced you to be very sequential in how you approached combat, which it dawned on me if you're like a combo player in Magic the Gathering, you would actually probably enjoy this battle system because it is all about sequencing to get the most out of it.
Mm.
But I am not a combo player in Magic the Gathering, and I don't really care for optimal sequencing. So it was just okay. The story, though, was very good, and it teed up episode 3 very well. So I played it episode 3. I started episode 3 like immediately after because I was not going to wait another year and a half to play the next installment in this series, especially when it was the last one. It's like, I'm just doing this, rolling right into it. And where episode 2, not a very good game, episode 3 is a phenomenal game, and it's one of the best in the entire like Xeno multi-series, whatever you would call it. It's really good. It takes pretty much all of the main threads that had been just gradually building throughout the first 2 episodes, and it wraps it all up nicely in the most epic way possible. There's so many epic moments in this game. It gives you a lot of like backstory and stuff with certain characters, and then at the same time there are things about Xenosaga 3 that, having played the Xenoblade games beforehand, specifically Xenoblade Chronicles 3, there's a lot of stuff in Xenosaga that Xenoblade really pulls on and remixes and repurposes into its own original stories in the Blade series. That's really freaking cool. And that's one thing that I love so much about the Xeno games is like every single one that you play makes all the rest of them even better, because then you just kind of build up this knowledge of moments and plot lines and specific like character archetypes and stuff that you see those in all of the other games, even though they're not technically the same series. They are all connected. It's really cool. So now the only Xeno game I have left is Xenoblade Chronicles X. And the definitive edition comes to Switch on March 20. So now I'm just waiting for that. I can't wait. That one's going to be interesting because it's not connected. I mean, they're all connected, but it's like a separate storyline from the mainline games 1 through 3. So from what I hear, this is the game that kind of got them the gig with helping to develop the open world for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, just because of how like expansive and massive of an open world that they were able to build in Chronicles X. And it really pushed the Wii U to its limits back then. So I'm looking forward to playing that, and eventually, after however long into the game it is, getting to pilot robots, because you get to pilot robots. Speaking of piloting robots, Xenosaga has always had 2 different versions of its battle system, kind of like Xenogears did, where you have your main like on-foot battle system, and then you have a special modified battle system specifically for fighting in mechs. In episode 2, it was very much just a stripped down version of the on-foot battle system when you're fighting in mechs. It was not very fun. In episode 3, they completely revamped it, gave the mech battle system almost its own entirely original system, and it was incredibly fun until the very end of the game when you are in the final chapter and it is like this massive, like there's this huge string of boss fights almost back to back to back to back, and the first chunk of them are all in the mechs, and the last chapter of that game is very exhausting. I'll just say that. It was very exhausting, but it was epic, and the resolution was really good. But then after that, I started Star Wars Outlaws, a Ubisoft game, and I like it a lot. It's actually it had a really rough launch. It typical corporations pushing the game out before it's ready type jargon that it really suffered for. But the state the game is in now, while still not perfect, it is still very, very good. I have really enjoyed it. I've put close to 20 hours into it now already. And I have I think I've been to every planet that you go to now. I got an achievement that said like visit every like area of every planet, so I'm assuming I've been to every planet now. But it's really fun. You are tasked with assembling a team to pull off a massive heist and stuff. So you're going all around the galaxy to all these different planets to find these people that you need to recruit to your side to help you pull off this heist. And then in the meantime, you're navigating like your relationships with all of the different underworld cartels, like the Hutts and the Crimson Dawn and the Pike cartel. And there's one other that I'm not going to talk about because I didn't even know they were in the game. So I'm not going to say who they are because they were kind of a surprise. It's like, oh, I thought it was just the three, but apparently not. But yeah, so you get to naturally, when with the Hutts involved, you get to go to Tatooine and do a whole bunch of stuff on Tatooine. That's where I'm at now. I saved that for last just because that was the world I was most familiar with. So I wanted to see the worlds I haven't been to before first. But yeah, it's for a Ubisoft game. I'm really enjoying it. And I found that the longer I play it, the more I like it. So it's good. There's a little bit of jank. Every now and then I'll encounter somebody that's just riding an invisible speeder. And so there's stuff like that. I like halfway fell through the world once, but I didn't. It was like it was starting to, and then it recovered, and I was like, okay. And then I don't know if I soft locked myself today or it was probably just something that quest that I had to resolve first. I got my wanted level with the Imperials all the way up. And when you get your wanted level all the way up, they send in a death trooper squad to conduct a manhunt. And I didn't go to this point where all the death troopers were at to resolve my wanted level, because you can basically, you go and you fight through, you try to sneak in their little base and you can go up and use their computer to erase your wanted level if you're sneaky enough. But they're also death troopers, so if you get caught, you have to fight death troopers.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. Found that out the hard way today because I actually made the mistake of getting caught. But I think what I was trying to do was I was trying to escape off-world, because in orbit around all the planets, there's a bunch of little like things that you can interact with to also clear your wanted level. So I was trying to get up to hit one of those, but it wouldn't let me take off. And I think, so I thought I soft locked myself, but I think maybe that was just, I had a full wanted level. And when you have a full wanted level, you can't take off from whatever planet you're on until you resolve it somehow. I'm not sure, but it's really fun. Just going around, screwing over cartels, forming alliances with other ones, and then stabbing them in the back later. It's really fun. And I really, really do like this game. I'm not sure how much more I'm going to put into it aside from just finishing the game, but because there's, in typical Ubisoft fashion, there is side quest vomit, and I've got like a million things in my quest log. And I'm just like,
Right.
yeah, I'm not doing all of these. So I'm just kind of picking and choosing the things that sound good, and then just doing that, and then sticking to the story and stuff. But it's a really fun game, and it kind of sucks that they forced it out before it was finished. Otherwise, I think it probably would have been a bit more well received. But it's well received from me, who historically doesn't like Ubisoft games. So there's that. For whatever that's worth, I don't know. It's a good game. If you're a Star Wars fan, you should absolutely play it. I'll just say that much. It's good. For what it's worth, I like it more than Jedi Survivor. So, so there. Yeah. I guess after that, now I guess it's time for our Hey Listeners segment.
Hey, listen!
Where each episode we ask our Discord members a prompt based on the topic of the episode for them to respond to. And if you, listening to this, would like to join, there's Discord link in the description below. And we hope to see you there. This week we are talking about the nicest characters in gaming. So we asked our Discord members who they think are the nicest characters in their eyes. And we got a few write-ins. Our first one comes from Jazzy, who writes, "There's only one right answer here, right? Sora! He's from Kingdom Hearts, if you didn't know. Look, you asked for the nicest, not the smartest. He may not have a lot going for him in the brains department, but he makes up for it with a heart that's 3 sizes too big. And that joke works on so many levels. If you know, you know. He's always looking out for his friends and anyone in need, regardless of how dangerous the situation is for him. He always finds the good in someone, even if they can't find it themselves. He will go to the end of the world to help his friends and has proven so time and time again." Sora's a pretty nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a pretty nice guy. Our next writing comes from Lord Kirov, who writes, "Penny from Stardew Valley. She teaches the kids of the valley for free and puts up with her horrible drunk of a mother. Everything she does is to promote life and happiness, and I will fight for my Stardew waifu." And our last writing comes from Crystal Lily, who writes, "My first thought on this was actually Cream the Rabbit from the Sonic games, but I'm guessing Neal may mention her. And if I say Kirby, well, I don't know how many times I brought up one of their games, so I'm going with something a bit different, and it's a tie between these two. Yoshi. It's a dinosaur that, in one of the games, is trying to help a baby find his home. An entire village of them work together to help a lost child. Seems nice to me. And when they grow up, they help Mario and friends with their adventures with little to no asking for anything in return. And also, Rosalina. The mother of the Lumas, Rosalina has been caring for them for years. Think about it. Caring for probably millions of little ones for so long is no easy task, but she cares for each of them. She offers to help Mario and Luigi after her observatory was robbed by Bowser, and at the end flies it to the center of the universe so Mario and Luigi can confront Bowser and save Peach. Overall, a good character with a good heart, and I would say they are nice overall." All right, thank you for your very nice write-ins, everybody. And remember, if you want to write in to a future episode, you can join our Discord at the link below. Let's get on to our main topic, though. We are talking about the nicest characters in gaming. Lucas, who is your first character?
Well, my first character is Eleanor Cameo from Phantasy Star Online. Yeah, she's Dr. Giancarlo Montague's assistant, but also sort of robot daughter. And she's got a heart of gold. You first encounter her on a mission given to you by sort of just kind of a greedy merchant who's looking to make a heap of cash off of selling mags taken from deceased hunters. And, well, Eleanor objects to that, rescues them to allow them to give their last wishes to their previous masters first, because mags are very much sentient. Later on, towards the end of episode 1, you actually go on a mission with her and Dr. Montague to rescue her sister, who has been kidnapped by a government military organization. And, well, that's never good. But depending on the ending that you go for, she ends up sacrificing herself to sort of save everyone and save Alt. But of course, ends up all right because plot reasons. Yeah, like every interaction I have had with her since first started playing Phantasy Star Online has always put a smile on my face because she is a cinnamon roll in pink robot form. Yeah, that's my first pick.
Very nice. Neal, who's your first character?
Okay, I have a confession to make. I did pick Cream the Rabbit.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, it
Nice.
should shock anybody, and obviously was predicted in the Hey Listeners. My first pick, we're getting it out of the way, Cream the Rabbit. Definitely a perfect pick for this episode. Literally in Sonic Advance or Sonic Advance 2 where she's introduced, one of the first things Sonic says to her is, "What a polite girl." So that's sort of her whole premise, being polite. She helps in the Rush games. She helps Blaze kind of fit in with the other Sonic characters. She's very polite to her, despite Blaze's sort of resistance to trusting people. Also, her place in Sonic Battle is pretty important, and her connection with Emerald in that game leads into the quote unquote plot, I guess, of Sonic Advance 3. I'm not going to talk too much about because down the line we will be playing that game on this show. But yeah, this character is just adorable. She's even got her own friend that's always with her in the form of Cheese of the Chow. I like her a lot. She's often a lot of fun in the comics. Her relationship with Omega from Team Dark in the Archie series is fantastic.
That's
For some
quite
reason,
the juxtaposition.
for some reason, Omega is terrified by Cream and just how nice she is. It's great. But yeah, she's also really good in IDW. During the Metal Virus arc, there is a point where the OC from that series, Whisper, is super bitter about somebody else that she knows being turned to a, what are they called? Zombots. And she is so bitter that she's willing to shoot Eggman, and Cream steps in the way of her sights and is like, "No, you can't do this. You'll feel awful. And right now, we need Eggman to help us fix this problem." And yeah, Cream is also super devastated in the Metal Virus arc when her mother ends up getting turned into a zombot. I want to say roboticized, but that's not what it is. But yeah, that's a super dark arc, and Cream suffers some of the worst of it. But other than that, she shows up throughout the comic and is usually a joy whenever she does. Her interactions with whatever the villain of the situation is are always very funny. But yeah, Cream is also a nice pick for me just because Sonic Advance 2 is kind of like where I started. And she is God mode in that game, and
Oh,
she's the first
absolutely.
character. She is the first character you unlock. So, you want to beat the game? Play as Cream.
Yeah, you'll beat the game in a hurry with her.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
She's probably my favorite character from Sonic Advance 2.
Yeah, she's great. You unlock her a lot later in Sonic Advance 3, which definitely makes sense balance wise.
Yeah.
I think they wanted to have Cream in first just because they needed to introduce her in Sonic Advance 2.
Mm-hmm.
So that they didn't have to spend as much time on that in Sonic Heroes. But yeah,
Sonic
we're gonna
Heroes
go
was
with
my introduction to her.
yeah. I think that's most people's introduction to her. But yeah, I guess that's
I mean, and
They
her
didn't want to introduce her.
her appearance in Heroes is also pretty wholesome too, because she's trying to
Oh yeah, it
rescue
is.
her other Chow, Chocola.
Yep. I think it's just implied that she's just like friends with the Chows.
Yeah.
That's definitely true in Archie Sonic. There's a mini arc that introduced her to the comic, and it involves a lake of Chows. Um, so yeah, I will say in Sonic X, I always found her voice kind of grating, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't necessarily read her in that voice when I'm reading comics or her dialogue in games. It's more of her voice actor in the starting with Sonic Colors. I don't know where she first appeared when they shifted voice actors from the 4Kids actors, but wherever that was, that actor is a little less grating and sounds just more like a nice girl.
Mhm.
But yeah, Colin, what's your first pick?
My first pick is Aerith Gainsborough from Final Fantasy VII. The flower girl that you just happen to bump into in the slums. And then she becomes a pivotal character in the
Mm-hmm.
game. There is not a mean bone in Aerith's body. She is always there to try and cheer up the rest of the party when things aren't looking great. And then she is the most attuned to the planet out of anyone because she herself is an ancient. So she is able to communicate with the planet through the live stream, and through that is able to do her part to help save the planet from the impending threat of Sephiroth. Um, but yeah, she is just every single time she is on screen, she is just lighting up the room. And the way that they fleshed out her character in the remake series is so incredible. I always loved her as a character, but the way that they've expanded on her in the modern remakes has made me love her even more. Um, yeah, she is very good. And she is very nice. An extremely nice character. Anyway, Lucas, who's your second pick?
My second pick is Curly Brace from Cave Story. Might remember her from that one game, Cave Story. You first encountered her. She is defending her small family of baby Mamigas from what she thinks is a robot sent to execute them in the form of quote. And well, it ends up being a misunderstanding. You're not trying to cause them harm, you're trying to help them too. So she takes to your side and becomes an ally for you throughout the rest of Cave Story. So she doesn't, or like, quote, kind of also suffers from amnesia, but you fix that later, and she remembers even more than what she thought she forgot, leading her to reveal that or that Quote and Curly were specifically sent on a separate mission from the rest of the robots sent to the floating island. Yeah, she is, well, very tomboyish. She's a combat robot, but kind of expected for one with a sort of female persona. Uh, Also fairly headstrong at times. Like when you go charging into the core of the island and almost kill or destroy the core of the island, which would send the core the island plummeting down to Earth. Oops. But also in that same scene, though, she is equipped with a bubble shield that allows her to not get waterlogged and short circuit, as opposed to Quote, who does not. So, upon the devastating revelation that, like, destroying the core of the island would cause the island to crash onto Earth and probably kill even more people, uh, she ends up very selflessly giving Quote her bubble shield so that they can breathe underwater. And yeah, from there you can pump all of the water out of her system, take her with you. You eventually get separated or after fighting a very grumpy fish named Ironhead. And yeah, you'll eventually re-encounter her with her amnesia and go get the Ma Pignon and yeah, restore her memory. She helps you through the final battle to defeat Balos, and everything ends up great. But yeah, just she's a fun, friendly, and very caring character. Yeah, that's my second pick.
All right. And Neil, how about your second pick?
My second pick is not just a character, but I guess sort of characters. In the game Mother 3, the game Mother 3 doesn't start out like Earthbound, where modern day romanticized America style world. It starts out in a more like I don't know, 1700s village. You got sheep and pens, kind of similar to like an Amish civilization. But so the uh, the standard from the previous Mother games of talking to your dad over the phone to save doesn't really work in this setting that Mother 3 starts out in. So instead, they went with frogs. Yeah, you can talk to frogs and save your game that way. Later on in the game, once currency becomes a thing, you can also mess with your savings and whatnot. But the frogs are very polite, and they're part of what they say. Besides hop, save your game, is give my regards to the next frog you meet. So every frog you see, you kind of see the next one, and you say, "Hey, next frog sends its regards." Or I don't know. It doesn't say that in game, but I always say it to the frogs whenever I play the game. But these little frogs end up in various situations throughout the game, and you sort of feel bad for some of them. Some are just silly, but there's one in a test tube towards the end of the game, and you feel kind of bad. There's a ghost one in a haunted mansion, so that feels a little bad. Haunted castle mansion. You also run into one that's being eaten by a snake on Taintain Islands. Fortunately, though, when you're seeing that, it isn't quite reality. But I won't go into that anymore. There's one in a hospital that's in a wheelchair for some reason. You meet two different ones in bathrooms. But yeah, these guys are quite a joy to talk to. It makes saving put a little smile on your face. And yeah, they're another eccentric part about the Earthbound series, and more particularly Mother 3. I'm glad they exist.
Yeah.
And yeah. I will say, if you are playing Mother 3 for the first time and you're put off a bit by the fact that it doesn't feel like Earthbound or maybe Mother 1, the setting, just stick around. It'll get there. You'll get your Earthbound 2 into the game. It's kind of a slow boil.
It's
the right
fantastic.
term. It's fantastic. Play it. Yeah. You will like this game, and if there's things about Earthbound that don't quite click for you, probably a lot of that's fixed in Mother 3, mechanics wise. Great game. Highly recommend it. But I am going to pass it over to Colin. What is your next pick?
Well, my next character could show you a thing or three about being nice. Because it's Rex from Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And this guy is kind of like Sora in a way. Like, he's just so incredibly like nice and earnest to a fault. Like, so much so, like, people are constantly coming at him left and right to take Pyra from him because she is the Aegis. She is an incredibly powerful blade, and people want to use her to further their own ends, which are not always very good ends because bad people want power. And Rex is still, while obviously defending Pyra, like able to kind of see the good in these people that are trying to take her from him, even all the way up to the end and stuff. And it's just like he's an always look at the bright side kind of person. And given that the hand that he was dealt in life, where he grew up without ever knowing his parents, and his basically father figure is the Titan that he rides on and basically lives on the back of, that he calls Gramps. He was basically raised by this Titan that he lives on the back of. Because that's how the world of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 works, is like there's no like land mass. They all exist on the backs of massive Titans in the Sea of Clouds, essentially. And I mean, Gramps isn't like a giant like land mass type of Titan. He's much more smaller than that, but he's small enough to have a little shack on his back for Rex to live in, and he just kind of ferries him across the world. And then the story begins and all that. And yeah, Rex is Rex is so nice that like a lot of things also very much go over his head. I'll just say that. There's one specific moment in the game that's very late in the game, and I'm not going to spoil it, but it's just the most Rex moment in the entire game because of what someone says to him and what he says in response is just so genuinely him. It's just like, yeah, that is what you would say that. But I've always liked Rex. He is great. He'll show you a thing or three. That's for sure. Lucas, your third character.
Well, my third character is none other than Roll from the classic Mega Man games. Is Dr. Light's sort of lab assistant, housekeeper, but more importantly, she is sort of a surrogate daughter for Dr. Light and also brother of Rock, aka Mega Man.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the game, she mostly serves as the shopkeeper for the inventory, or for the games. You often see her as the shopkeeper in Rockman and Forte and Mega Man H, Mega Man 9, and not Mega Man 10 because that's the whole plot is rescuing Roll. But yeah, it's just a very friendly sort of personality. It's a good foil for Mega Man and his very hero personality.
Yeah, she's a very good character in the comics as well.
Yeah.
She is like the first one to be like more concerned about Mega Man, like out in the field in those early arcs than Light is. Dr. Light gets there, of course, but Roll is very, very concerned for her brother, and she's very sweet.
Yeah. Kind, caring, fairly witty, especially in the Ruby Spears series.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know how much it happens in the games, but there is a couple arcs where Roll ends up taking a major part in like saving the day, which is very cool to see as well.
Yeah.
There's a whole arc where she and a couple of the other female characters, I think Splash Woman is one of them.
Nice.
They save a cruise ship that was in some sort of trouble. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, I like this character as well.
Yeah, she's almost like in a way she's like Mega Man's Cream the Rabbit.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she is the friendly girl character and the red dress counterpart to Cream for the whole Mega Man and Sonic are actually just the same. I mean, that could also describe Amy, but also like Roll isn't nearly as violent. Yeah, Roll is the like very much the sort of friendly kid persona that Cream has.
Definitely. Yeah. Personality-wise, she's way closer than Amy.
Yeah. Now, if Dr. Light had chosen Roll to turn into a fighting robot to defeat Dr. Wily, then things would be the other way around. And I mean, considering that she also appears as a playable character in Marvel vs. Capcom, well, she can hold her own in a fight, and you know, in the context of a fighting game, I suppose a broom isn't too much different from a hammer. But yeah, she's ever supportive of her brother and his efforts to save the day from Dr. Wily and all of his menacing schemes. Yeah, that's why Roll is my pick for number 1.
Very nice. Neal, what's your number 1 pick?
I'm realizing I didn't like order this on anything, but probably Cream would be nicer than the frogs. But my
I don't
my
know,
last
those frogs
pick.
seem pretty nice.
They are pretty nice. Nicer than Cream?
Froggy.
I don't know. Froggy.
Froggy. Yeah, that's
right,
another reason why Cream is nice, is because she's helping Big find Froggy.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. I wasn't even planning for those two to fit that nicely together. But no. Anyway, one thing. Slow burn is the word I was looking for. That's different than slow boil. But no, my third pick, my third thing I'm bringing up, we'll say, is Theo from Celeste. That was an episode that we did 2 years ago, 1 year ago. I don't want to think about it.
I think that was 2 years
That
already.
that was 2 years ago. Yep. Episode 21 came out February 23rd. Oof. But yeah, so we're all experienced with Theo. Theo is pretty much just super caring and super positive through pretty much the entire game. He just he's just one of those like nice, helpful people that want everybody to reach their best qualities. Theo helps Madeline get through some of the worst parts of the game, notably the mirror temple. And although there we do see some of the cracks in Theo's personality, just because of the way the mirror temple is, he's probably the best part of that level. Is the co-op work together between Madeline and Theo, pushing buttons and whatnot. His comments make that level a lot more bearable.
I'm helping.
But yeah, no. He is always a nice face to see. I think the only real point where he's mean is just him being freaked out by Mr. Oshiro in the hotel in level 3. But other than that, he's a super cool, kind guy that you want to be like. He's also got an Instagram account, so go check that out. But yeah, similar to the frogs in Mother 3, it's always nice when you run into Theo. And it happens a little less, but there's a bit more conversation with him usually. And obviously the whole feather thing wouldn't come out if it wasn't for Theo. And yeah. So yeah, I guess that's about it. Colin, what's your number 1 pick? If that's the way you're doing yours.
My nicest character. I don't know. I didn't really put them in like an order either. But
Yes.
But the final character that I chose for today is none other than Kazuma Kiryu. You may have seen him on the thumbnail for this episode because he's a really nice guy. Now, you may be thinking, wait a minute, Colin. This guy beats people up for a living. What do you mean he's nice? And to that, I say, well, usually when he's beating people up, they are the ones picking the fights with him. Kazuma Kiryu does not go picking fights. He is strictly acting in self-defense. And the amount of like stuff that this guy is willing to go through just to be kind to people, he's such an easygoing, like go with the flow kind of guy at the end of the day. Like just like the amount of crazy things that he's subjected to by all of the random people that are just absolutely insane in Kamurocho, like Goro Majima. And just like, I mean, all of the side content and stuff in the game is just absolutely crazy that he's just along for the ride in and stuff. And then also you get really earnest moments in there where he's like, hell yeah, I believe in like gay and trans rights. I just want people to be people and to be happy with who they are and stuff. It doesn't get much nicer than that. Like just wanting people to be happy for who they are. And yeah, he's just like underneath that very gruff exterior, he's just a really, really soft, kind guy at the end of the day. And he's great because he is Kazuma Kiryu and he's awesome and very nice. So that's that. Yeah. Anyway, on to the next segment. Our weekly link to the past. This week, turning 13 years old in Japan, releasing on February 16 of 2012. Theatrhythm Final Fantasy for the Nintendo 3DS. The first game in this charming little rhythm game series that they've been putting out for the last 13 years now. The most recent one, actually, interestingly, as of today, the date of recording, turned 2. So, bonus link to the past. Theatrhythm Final Bar Line is what that one was called. But this one was the first game that started it all. It's just a really charming rhythm game on the 3DS featuring chibi variants of classic Final Fantasy characters. This one, at the time, Final Fantasy 13 was the newest mainline entry, so it only goes up to that game. But it features songs from all throughout the franchise, and you do little rhythm games. Like combat takes place, like it looks like a side view battle system for any other Final Fantasy, but then you have like timed button inputs and stuff for the rhythm game aspect, and it's all timed to specific music from the series. Interestingly, in Japan, they got a Dragon Quest Theatrhythm game in 2015. I did not know this until just today. That's kind of cool. And also kind of disappointing that it never came over here. But that's just the way Dragon Quest is. It's like, for whatever reason, like it's huge in Japan, but they never want to give it the opportunity to be big over here. Like we still never got the Dragon Quest X, the MMO, which they released a fully offline version of, and we didn't even get that. There was a 3DS version of Dragon Quest XI that featured the ability to play the entire game in a classic top-down 2D graphic style, like instead of 3D. They kind of worked that into Dragon Quest XI's, like the enhanced version of the game that came out a couple years after the original version of the game did. So we do have access to that in that version of the game on consoles, but still, we never got the 3DS version of the game, which released on the same day as actual Dragon Quest XI too, which is also impressive that
Yeah.
two completely different versions of the game were able to release in the same day. Kind of like the Metroid Fusion, Metroid Prime thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a charming little series. I own Final Bar Line. I think I might have Curtain Call also, which was the second game in the series that came out in 2014. I might have that. I don't know. I haven't had time to play them yet though. So I just admire them for being cute rhythm games that I have not had time to play yet. But yeah, happy birthday, Theatrhythm, Final Fantasy. Let's move on. And that's the end of episode 69. Lucas, where can they find you outside the podcast?
Well, you can find me on Linktree at linktr.ee/karn_evil_999. Got links to my Blue Sky, which exists. Kind of slowed down posting because I kind of slowed down on trying to finish Pokemon Crystal Monobug, and that was mostly what I've been posting updates of. You can also catch me complaining about operating system installers. Also find my Steam account where you can, add me on there if you want. Got links to my YouTube. That one game, Carnival 9. Or that one gaming podcast, Carnival 9. Post long plays of the games that we talk about in our That One Game series of podcast episodes. And of course, links to join our podcast Discord and of course catch up on our backlog of episodes because there's 68 others of them now. Yeah, that's linktr.ee/karn_evil_999.
And where can Neal be found?
I can also be found on my link tree, linktr.ee/vmk89. I've got links to my Twitch, podcast, website, the podcast Discord, my X/Twitter account, which doesn't do anything, and then my old YouTube channel, which also doesn't do anything. So mostly just my Twitch and podcast stuff you should look at. But yeah, Colin, where can they find you?
On my link tree, linktr.ee/delicious morsels. That's where my links are at. Go check them out. Follow me on Blue Sky. It's a pretty fun place and stuff. Yeah. Anyway, as always, if you liked what you heard here today, please be sure to hit the subscribe button where that's an option. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify because I hear they like that stuff. Hit the like button if that's a thing, and feel free to share this episode with a friend. We're going to be back in a couple weeks with another episode, but until then, have a very nice rest of your day, and remember,
Play for the cats.
Stay for the sexual innuendos.
wah,
Nice.
wah, wah. Nice.